The first one, well, of course, I am Arlan Narvaez. I'm from Venezuela. But the most people fear economics for some reason, and for some reason also people think that economics is something from the devil or something very much away from the logic of the people. And one of the things that I want to try to convey is precisely that economics is something relatively elementary if you have a logical mind, in a sense. And I will try to give you some hints on how to elaborate economic arguments, or arguments to discuss on how to put economic reasoning on your debates, okay, or how to interpret the economic challenges in some of the debates. So the first thing that you have to know about this issue is that economics is no invention from people that had nothing to do. That's philosophy. They had nothing to think about, and they started to say things like, that chair is there or not. If I am here, the chair is there. But if I am not here, the chair will not be there, and that sort of things. That's a philosophy. Economics is based on facts. On exactly what you do. Okay? Every one of us, you know that we are part of what is called Homo sapiens, but we are also Homo economicus. Okay? Because at the end, economics is basically the way of satisfying your needs. And everybody has needs. And that is the logic that we're going to follow. The important thing about this, and it has been stated by some economists which have been awarded with the Nobel Prize, is that the logic of economics at the national level or any level, regional level, local level, etc., it is exactly the same as the logic of the decisions on your personal level. So that's why economics work exactly like you work. And your rational mind, your decisions on economics, rational decisions on economics, basically will give you the hint on how to decide in any economic issue. Okay? Of course, that when you go away from the individual, things start to complicate a little more, but the basis, the most important, the fundamentals, are exactly the same. So this is something very important to understand. It is no invention. The only thing that you have to do is just trust the force. Okay? Think about what would I do. Okay? As I said before, the objective of economics, it is to meet the diverse and growing necessities of its population. It could be personal level, it could be a nation, it could be whatever, but the important thing is that the idea of economics is to meet necessities. Necessities is a concept which is very broad. Necessities, it is not what people, that other people say that necessities are. Necessities are exactly what you think necessities are. If you need, this is a discussion which many people said, if someone needs to feel well with an earring, that's a necessity. If somebody needs whatever, that's a necessity. Okay? Of course, there are always bare necessities. Okay? Also necessities are diverse and they are growing. You never satisfy your necessities. If you want to think about necessities, okay, think about what's the name of that Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise? No, it is not Tom Cruise. It is, what's the name of the this actor who worked for Federal Express and crashed a plane and...
Oh, Castaway, the movie.
Okay, The Castaway is the name of the movie?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, think about The Castaway. I mean, that guy in the movie, okay, he had a lot of necessities while he was a high employee in Federal Express. Okay, he needed the car, he needed the suit, he needed lots of things. And all of a sudden, he crashes and he goes back to the bare necessities. All of them are necessities. What's the difference? Well, when you meet, every time you meet a necessity, another one arises. That's why the necessities are diverse and growing. And the problem sometimes is how to meet them when there are different levels of necessities in a society. That is something that you have to discuss, okay, under the elements that we are going to pose later on. But here you can see an advance of that. I'm worried about my weight, okay, and the perspective is absolutely different. But both of them have the same perspective, have the same problem, I mean. Okay, then necessities make people make an effort to try to solve that necessity. Okay, and that effort that people make, okay, turns into the essential of economics, because there is no economic if there is no effort from people. Economics, it is not really about resources. Okay? There are very rich countries, rich in the sense, I mean, a rich country is a country which is able to satisfy more necessities for its population than any other. That's what makes a country richer than any other. And the thing is that these necessities makes people make an effort. That effort is converted into goods and services that will satisfy those needs. Are you following this? Okay, so necessities, effort, and then the satisfaction of those needs through those goods and services that you produce with your efforts. And then we come to the basics of economics. I mean, behind any economic problem, you will find a problem of demand and supply, always. Okay? At the end, somewhere, in some place, it is a problem of demand and supply. If you are able to determine, okay, where is the problem with demand or where is the problem with supply, I mean, you will have a hint on how to understand an economic problem. Is that clear? I mean, if you need some clarification, please don't hesitate, just raising your hand and asking for that. Okay? Okay. So what it means? It means that. Oh, and let me just expand a little bit this. From necessities derives demand, and from the production of goods and services, which are the consequence of those necessities, okay, derives the supply. Okay? Then at the end, most of the problems are a problem of demand and supply. The economy is in equilibrium when demand meets supply. When they meet, okay, we have economic equilibrium. In general terms, equilibrium is it's always the perfect state of life, the perfect state of the universe. And life, economics, and everything, it is just a search for equilibrium. And you can find equilibrium wherever, even in the most extreme situation. Could you believe, for instance, that there is equilibrium between sadist and the masochist? Yes. One sadist married a masochist, and in the wedding night, the masochist told him, beat me, and he said, no. Equilibrium, perfect equilibrium. Okay? So, and here there is also a perfect explanation about what happens when demand and supply doesn't meet. What is the situation in here? This is our baked pigeons. The lady has some popcorn. What's the problem there?
Not enough supply.
Not enough supply. Or
Too much demand.
or too much demand. Okay. Okay. The next thing is that the relationship between supply and demand, it is not just a relationship with no other consequences, it has a consequence. In fact, one of the things that we're going to see very soon is that there is no free lunch. There is always a consequence in each of our decisions. And of course, it is related also to the consequences. So one of the basic laws of supply and demand is that when the supply is larger than the demand, the price tends to drop. And when the demand is higher than the supply, the prices tend to increase. And that also gives you a hint on some of the problems that you will find. Some people say that this is also interesting for elaborating arguments. Some people say that this mechanism of price setting according to demand and supply, it is unfair because it means that only people who can pay the price gets their supply. Okay? But the thing is that it has not been discovered any other alternative better than that. Some people have devised, for instance in Cuba, the rationing of the things, but that's, as I tell my students, that's like if you are collecting cards, baseball cards, and there is always this one that you never find, okay? And that the rest of the cards you exchange one for one, is that correct? Mm-hmm. But what happens with the cards that you don't, that they are not easy to find? How do you exchange them? One for one? No. You have to give a lot of them in order to get that one. Is that fair?
Yes, both sides agree.
Well, the problem is that if that happens, it means that a lot of people will not get that card. So that's unfair. Okay? The rationing solves that problem by this way. Okay? So what I'm going to do is that I will get this card that nobody has. How many of you want this card? 50? Okay. And I get that into 50 pieces and I give you a piece of each of that to 50 people. So everyone in a fair action will have a little piece of that card. Is that fair?
No, because it won't work.
It doesn't solve the problem as well. So what would be the solution?
Produce more cards.
Issue more cards. Issue more cards. Okay? Another problem is that if I issue more cards, I will not sell the others. So that's a different issue to discuss. But the solution is issue more cards. Which means in terms of demand and supply, what?
Increase
Prices.
Increase supplies.
Okay.
Increase supply. Okay. The other thing is that in the short term, appears another problem, which is scarcity. Okay? Scarcity happens when demand exceeds supply. Scarcity appears when demand exceeds supply, and that's the reason why the prices increase. But the important thing is that Scarcity usually makes you to have choices. You have to make a decision, you have to choose, okay, between what exactly are you going to do. In economics, these choices are usually what I am going to produce, how I am going to produce, for whom I am going to produce. Okay? And it has different answers depending on the economic problem that you are dealing with. And behind that, in order to decide, you have to establish what? What do you have to establish?
Which one of those questions to answer first?
What do you have to establish in order to decide what choice are you going to take? Priorities. Priorities. You have to set your priorities in order to decide. The problem is that whatever you decide, your decision will have always one wrong side and one right side, depending upon who's taking that decision. In economics, there is something, one concept, and in life, not only in economics, in life also, and this is the basic, this is the base for arguments in economics. It is every decision, everything that you say, okay, will imply a choice, and that choice will have an opportunity cost. In economics, it is called an opportunity cost. There is no free lunch. There is no free lunch. Okay, so it means that whatever you're going to decide has a price or has a cost. Okay, and for instance, what is the opportunity cost of being here?
Other lectures.
Not going to another lecture. Okay? What is the opportunity price of buying a cup of coffee?
Not buying something else.
Not buying something else. Okay? What is the opportunity price of free education?
Higher taxes.
Yes, but you have to go first to, there is not such thing to free education. There is free education for you, but somebody is paying for that. And if somebody is paying for that, what is the opportunity cost of that?
The price that cost.
The what?
The price, how much cost the education?
Oh, but that's the cost, not the opportunity cost. That is the cost.
Less money for health.
Less money?
For health.
Less money for another option. Okay? It means if you are deciding and look at how strong is this opportunity cost to be used in a debate. Okay? It means that if this morning you were debating about not giving money to beggars. In my debate, somebody said, well, the idea is then let's give them jobs and housing. Okay? Okay, if you give housing to the beggars, what's the opportunity cost?
Well, the cost of producing or renting those houses or whatever, the jobs, in terms of somebody else is not going to get them.
Okay. That is the direct cost, and then the opportunity cost is that the money that you are allocating in that housing project will not go to another project that perhaps has a higher priority than that. Are you following this?
Mm-hmm.
So in the debate this morning, it's how are you going to pay for that? And somebody will say, well, we will do this and this, okay, and how are you going to withdraw the money from that? What are the consequences? What is the opportunity cost of using that money in the housing for the beggars, for instance? Okay? So there is always an opportunity cost. There is no free lunch. And the idea is that the priorities usually has to be considered under a cost-benefit analysis. Oh, I think that this speaks by itself. Women never lose. Opportunity cost. Okay? Very clear. Well, what happens about the opportunity cost and about the decisions is that there is always, I mean, in economics you can say that whatever the decision that you are taking in the national level or in the local level, I mean, you're always wrong. Why you're always wrong? Because somebody gets benefited and somebody gets harmed, at least in relative terms. And even in your personal level, that usually happens. So when you're talking about the opportunity cost, okay, in national terms, something very important, I mean, to use also in a debate as to elaborate arguments or to counteract arguments, it is precisely that. Okay, to think who is benefiting with that decision, who is being harmed with that decision. Okay, and to balance them and to give at the end at least your view on what would be the best use of the resources that we are allocating in whatever we're deciding. Is this clear enough? So usually there is someone who benefits and someone who is being harmed. Because of that, you are never right. But also, depending on the perspective that you are taking, you are never wrong as well. The other thing that you have to take into account in opportunity cost, it is time. Okay? Why time? Because whatever your decision, it has different time scenarios. Okay? Usually the most important are the short run or the long run. We can go again to the debate this morning, giving money to the beggars. In the short run, it apparently solves the immediate problem of the beggar. But what would happen in the long run? That your resources that you are giving to them cannot be used in order to give them a solution in the long run for taking them away from begging. Are you following me? So in the short run, it might be given a solution, but in the long run, it is not a solution. Politicians usually try to decide depending on which of these perspectives.
Short.
No, election time. How close?
Election time, and election time means which of them?
Short run.
Shorter. And that's one of the problems. I mean, one of the problems with democracy is that you have to be elected in order to try to be in office. Okay? And because of that, you have to do some demagogic choices that trade the long run for the short run. I tend to say that one of the problems in the world is that most of the people in power have a little Chavez inside, and because of that, they decide, okay, on the basis of I want to be elected, I want to be loved, okay, and not on what exactly what the people need. Okay? As it came through this morning in the debate about the beggars, okay, if you give money to the beggar will love you. Okay? But if you solve the problem for him, you try to solve the problem for him, you don't give him money because you are using that to solve the problem completely. Okay? In the long run, he will hate you at the beginning. Perhaps in the long run, you will not be in office, and they will not appreciate The person who collected their vote will be the one who will be in power at that time. Is that clear? So the opportunity cost of any decision, okay, you can use the arguments by summarizing, by analyzing them on who gets benefited and who gets harmed, or using a time scenario, okay, the short run or the long run. Here there is a problem, very important. I mean, economic decisions or any project, whatever you're going to do, always require to finance it. Always require to finance it. And this is something, this is a killing question for plans, okay, for propositions. How are you going to finance that? How are you going to finance it? And the problem, what is the problem with financing? The problem with financing is that money doesn't come out of the trees. Okay? Money doesn't come out of the trees. So where is the money coming from? In general terms, where is the money coming from for most of governments?
Taxpayers.
Sorry?
Taxpayers.
Taxpayers. That is correct. And where the money from the taxpayers come from?
From their jobs.
Sorry?
Their jobs.
Their jobs?
Yeah. Their salary.
Their what? Their salary? What else? You're missing the most important source of taxes.
Their property.
Their property, okay. You're still missing the most important source for, I mean, you are...
it's the insurance.
You're thinking like Republicans. You're not thinking like...
Welfare. Social system.
No, social system, I mean, doesn't generate money. It consumes money. It requires money. But where do the tax money comes from? You already know, from the salaries, from what else? What is the most important source for taxes? The what? Yes, and the value-added tax. Okay, value-added tax is out of what? Okay, that's consumption. Okay, consumption. Okay, so you get money, you get tax from consumption, you get money out of salaries, and the most important source.
Death. Death.
That is another story. Okay? We're missing something which is very important. People only earn a salary.
No, they usually also get.
Let's put this in perspective. Okay? Now think in economics. I mean, you are just not in economics. Think in your case. Okay? And you hear your government is taxing. Your government is raising your personal taxes. What would you say?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Shoot yourself. Okay, so you like being taxed?
I like a society which is taxed, yeah.
Okay, he likes being taxed. Okay, but what did you say? What the rest of you say? Why me? Why not the big companies? They don't earn no salary. What do they earn? They earn big money through what?
Trade.
For what?
Trade.
Investment.
No, not only trade. Yes, I mean through investment and what is it? Profit. Profit. They make profit, and out of profit, which is the equivalent of salaries, but in this case for companies, okay, that is money. But both of them, salaries or profit, they come from something which is very important, which is the production of goods and services. Okay? The production of goods and services. When you are working, you are somehow producing goods and services. You work because of your necessities. Because of your necessities, you participate in the production process, which generates goods and services. Okay, so the counterpart, and you get paid because of that. The counterpart of your salary is the production that the economy gets in order to solve necessities. Okay? And out of that money that you make, or out of the money that the companies make in profit because of producing goods and services or solving necessities, okay, the government takes through taxes some of that money, and that way they finance it. Okay? What is your name? I don't know.
Teo.
Teo. Okay? I remember you, but sorry.
It's alright.
Teo said, there is another way to do that. You can get indebted. You can borrow money. Okay? Yes, it is true. The thing is, where is the money that you are borrowing coming from? And here comes the same essential logic, the same essential personal logic that you have. When you borrow money, people think on borrowing money, but they don't think that they have to pay that. And you have to think that you have to pay that. It is not free. I mean, borrowing, it is not a free process. It comes from somewhere and you have to return that money. So it is not just a solution, it is not magic, it is borrowing, and it is not, and this is something that governments usually do not understand, and this is something that many people get into big trouble because do not understand that. If you borrow, you will have to pay, or else you will get into big trouble. Okay? Are you following this? And that's why, how are you going to finance this? Where the funds are coming from? Okay, they may come from the production process they may come from the production process from out of taxes, or they may come out of investment, and the problem with the debt is that you have to pay. In general terms, the logic of indebting is that you only borrow money if in the future you are going to be in a better position to repay that loan. But if you are borrowing money and your situation it is, if you are borrowing money because the money that you earn it is not enough, you're getting into trouble. Why? Because tomorrow when you have to pay the debt, okay, you will have less money to pay your commitments, and you will have to borrow more. And at the end, you will get a load that is unbearable for you. Same thing happened with the governments. Okay, same thing happened with the governments, and that's something which is happening in Europe, and that is exactly something that is happening in the U.S. I mean, most of the debate about between Obama and Rumi had a lot to do with this. I mean, the United States has not a big debt, has a humongous, an extraordinarily big debt, and they don't know how to solve it. Okay, and that's a major problem. That's a major problem because they will have to do the same as you would do. If you are heavily indebted at your personal level, what you have to do? Run away? What do you have to do?
Work harder.
One option, work harder. Get a second job. Okay, that's one option. Another option?
In bankruptcy.
Sorry?
Bankruptcy.
Sorry?
Bankruptcy? When you say you can't pay that.
Okay. But bankruptcy has a lot of consequences,
Yeah.
okay? Because it almost erases you as as a person, and it will scratch your credibility and many other things. Okay, that's an additional option. But usually a country cannot get into bankruptcy. It has happened, but okay. What other options you have at the personal level?
Borrow more.
If you borrow more, you're getting into more problems.
Spend less.
Spend less. Cut expenses. Cut expenses. So the two solutions is, or you increase at the personal level, or you increase your sources of income, or you cut costs. And how do you increase at the national level your income?
Raising taxes.
Raising taxes is one possibility. But if you are going through a recession, which means that the economy is below, what's the problem with increasing taxes?
No money.
No, the problem with increasing taxes is that people that you need to invest will get the same, will not get an incentive. What's the word for the contrary of the incentive? Sorry?
Incentivize, believe.
The contrary of an incentive.
Decentivize somebody.
Yes, I mean it is not easy to pronounce. I know the word, but it's not easy to pronounce. Okay, so the problem is that they will not feel like producing, and that might get the situation harder.
Well, it might be an option for export, to increase taxes for export.
Export?
Yeah.
And with export, there is another problem. If people abroad is more efficient than you are.
But you would save your population.
Yes, you save your population, but the problem is that exporting, it is an independent variable. It doesn't depend on what you do, unless you get more productive. If you get more productive, I mean if you produce more with less effort, okay? Mm-hmm. That might cope it. I remember always something that happened in the 80s when I was studying at Cornell. It's Ronald Reagan had this threat of the Japanese cars, and he said, well, in order to protect the American car industry, we're going to raise the import taxes so that we will make more expensive the Japanese cars. And you know what the Japanese did? The unions, the labor unions, demanded the car manufacturers to allow them to work 2 more hours each day. And at the end, the cars resulted cheaper. And at the end, it was not enough, okay, what they did. What's the meaning of that? The meaning of that is that foreign trade doesn't depend only on what you do. Okay? So the options in order to solve your debt problem are either you raise more money or reduce costs. Okay? And it is not an easy decision because each one of them has a lot of consequences. I was thinking on developing a second part of this. This is exactly your line of reasoning, the one that we gave not long ago. Okay? Did you identify this, what you said? Give the buyers more money. Okay. The problem, what is the problem there? Okay, money doesn't grow out of the trees. Money, it is directly related to the production process. Okay? And what is the problem with money? People think that behind a banknote there is, I don't know, a pile of gold, okay, back in this banknote. Actually, it is not true. The only thing that there is backing a banknote, backing the money, it is the goods and services that you can buy with that money. The goods and services that the economy is producing. Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot issue money, okay, just by issuing money. Because when you have money, you can go to the market and demand goods and services. But if this money was invented, it doesn't came out of the production process through profit or through salaries, even future salaries, which at the end it is, or the savings, which at the, or past salaries, which at the end it's the savings that allow you to borrow. Okay? If it doesn't come out of the production process, what will happen? It will happen that you will be able, you will have more purchasing capacity, you will have less purchasing capacity than the goods and services that you get. It means if I just make this at home, okay, it means that this doesn't have as a counterpart, as a backup for this, the equivalent of goods and services. Are you following that? What is the problem with that? The problem with that is that you will have something that, on the other hand, doesn't have anything to do with the economy, doesn't have goods and services, and it means that you will increase demand. And what happens with demand increase without an increase in supply?
Inflation.
Inflation, or the prices tend to grow up. Okay? So these are some of the problems that we are posing about. So let's summarize, because we are almost finishing the time that we have here. What do you think are the most important ideas for using as arguments here? Let me hear that from you. The first one.
Supply and demand, always in a relationship, always in an equilibrium. I mean, always trying to.
Okay. Or what is important behind what is behind that? Every economic problem usually, okay, is a problem of supply and demand. We can do exercises about this, and you will find how this is true and what's the meaning of that. Okay? That's the first idea. The second one?
In a debate, you don't simply have to prove that somebody will benefit from, let's say, emotion, but that these benefits are more important than harms caused to the society.
Okay, and what's the concept behind that?
Opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. Okay? What's the other concept that you can use in a debate?
Is the strength balance of economy inside the country.
Okay. But there is something which is also very important, very useful.
The time frame, about the long run and short.
Time frame, which is a way of understanding the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Okay? And also the other one, the one with the tree.
Limited resources.
Beyond that.
No free lunch. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Okay.
Everything costs.
How are we going to finance that?
Borrowing is good.
How are we going to finance it? Okay? How are we going to finance it? Okay? Well, I hope that this gives you some hints, at least these 4 hints. If you use them, are very easy to go to analyze your problems. Always when you have a problem, think about the opportunity cost, think about how it affects demand and supply, think about how it affects the long run and the short run, and also how are you going to finance it. Okay? Most probably at the end I will finish a presentation for The second one, which is more related to money economics, which is pretty much related to the crisis that we are living. Okay, questions?
Yeah, I could just maybe ask about those. Like that you were saying that necessities shouldn't be divided. Well,
Necessities shouldn't be divided.
yeah, because they usually are like divided in needs and wants in some senses. In a sense that those wants can be created by advertising and so on. So
You can elaborate theories, or you can elaborate categories or things like that, but necessities are necessities, and necessities is anything that you think it is a necessity. And I use this in Venezuela, because now, I don't know if you know what is happening, what's going on in Venezuela, but the government, the president himself on national broadcasting said, why women need to get cosmetic? That is unnecessary. I mean, women do not need to get cosmetic. Is that true? I mean, that is not a necessity. Are cosmetics a necessity?
People would think so.
You're not a woman.
I could be in a couple of years.
Oh yes, but then that will be a problem. Is a necessity or not? Okay? Julia, is a necessity.
It's a necessity in that we use it, but it's not like I could survive without it.
Oh, of course. I mean, you also can survive with a refrigerator.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, and you also can survive without clothing.
But it's not a bare necessity.
And clothing is a bare necessity?
In our society, yes, you're not allowed to, well, unless you're in Vermont, you're not allowed to walk around naked.
Well,
Okay, but then we are exactly at the same position. I mean, you're just saying in our society, where there are societies, I mean, then why you use cosmetics?
You can function.
Because in your society, okay, you want to look good.
But you can function in society without makeup.
Yes, I know that. That is absolutely true. But the thing is that I'm not saying that it's a vital necessity. I mean, the only vital necessity is that you have to eat, that you have to sleep, that you need sex, that you need, what else can you say that it's a bare necessity that you cannot live without it? You have to drink, okay, water. For the rest, I mean, you don't need to wear clothes, okay? So you don't need a fridge. Do you need a car? That depends on, I mean, if you have good public transportation. So the idea of necessities, it is important. If you feel that that's a necessity for you, you will go for it. And nobody has a right to prevent you from satisfying your necessity. In fact, something which is very important. Have you seen in the movies of World War II how the nylon stockings for women were a very valuable good, and people used to go to the black market to get that in order to fascinate you. I mean, do you think that black stockings are a necessity? Not necessarily. I mean, but people need that. I mean, I want to feel good. Well, not me. I mean, I'm not Jews and black stockings. But that's a human nature. Do you think that Hagar the Terrible, you know him? Hagar, this Viking in the comic strips, that he needs the sword if he's a comic strip. So the important thing is that you will find always necessity as the fundament of society. And if it is produced, it is because it will satisfy one necessity. Okay? Well, I think that we can, I would love to have more time, and we would expand on many of these issues, but I don't want you to hate economics. I want you to love economics. Okay? Okay, have fun the rest of your presentation.